North Bennington Prudential Committee for May 8th of 2024. And first item on the agenda is public comments. I don't see anyone to offer public comments. So we'll move to the treasurer's report.
All right. Not a whole lot to report. We got our April general state aid, which was a little over 650,000. So that is the last round for this school year, fiscal year, however you want to look at it. So as of the report, which was April 30th, we had a little over 872,000 in the unrestricted accounts. And as you see in the warrant, there's 467,000 going out. So half of our balance is going out this month.
Right.
And that's always, April is traditionally a big month. We have a lot of
Right.
the items out. I have started communicating with the gentleman at M&T for the tax anticipation line. So I've begun that process. So hopefully that stays on track. And if it holds as last year, we will approve Ray and I to sign it at the June meeting, with us signing at the beginning of July. So it's in the next fiscal year. But like I said, the closing typically happens before the July meeting. If we even have a July meeting, I know sometimes we don't have a July meeting. So I'm going to push.
We almost never have a July meeting.
Right. So yeah, so I'm going to push M&T to have that. At least if we know the general, we can get an approval for Ray and I to sign up to a certain amount, or however we need to word it. Other than that, I don't really have too much. As I reported to the village last night, delinquent taxes kind of slow this time of year, but there still is some collections. I think in April for the school, it was a little over $3,400. So those will continue to trickle in. And then I'll have in June, I'll give a report of exactly where we're at, because then we'll have to make some decisions depending on Shaftesbury, if there's any that they're going to be moving towards tax sale. As I noted last night, there was an article in the paper that they have a number of parcels that they're going to start moving forward with tax sales. So I will be reaching out to them probably early next week to see if we have any of our school collection Shaftesbury one that fall under any of their ones that they're going to start moving on tax sales with.
Okay.
So other than that, unless anybody has any other questions, that's all I've got for tonight.
I have a comment. This but treasurer's report does it show this warrant, this month's warrant?
Well, no. So what this is, the treasurer's report shows the balance as of the end of the prior month. So those checks are technically not yet approved.
Okay.
So they're not deducted from that balance. That's why I said as of April 30th, we were a little over 872. And the warrant, if approved tonight, will be 467. So,
Right.
Like I said, half of that cash balance that we ended with in April will go. And there was only one small check that hadn't been cashed. So that is April 30th. That is a pretty accurate balance. Sometimes checks kind of hang and you don't know, but I think there was only one small check, less than 10,000, that hadn't cleared. So that is a fairly accurate balance of our unrestricted.
So my point was that once that warrant is processed through the board meeting and the checks are mailed, we primarily do not have large expenses after this point, because that's all the tuition's paid.
Well, no, we still have another, because we pay 11 months to the village school. So
That's in this warrant for May.
No, don't we pay them in June and we skip July?
No, we skipped June.
Okay. So we skip June, but then we follow right back up
We
July.
follow up in July, yes.
Right, July, August, right. So again, the problem being, the money flow kind of stops, but the bills don't really stop. We get the 1 month off in June,
Right.
But our next state aid is not until September, and then taxes don't start flowing really until October.
Yeah, I'm really more focused on what the end of the year looks like in terms of fund balance at the end of this fiscal year. I know there's the bond to pay in July.
Yep.
And there's start over with paying the village school in advance of September. And those obviously we have to come up with that money. That's why we borrow a little money at that point in time. But in fact, because of the way things worked out in terms of the distribution of tuition, we actually look like we're going to have a healthy surplus coming out of at the end. Once the auditors once the finance office gets through with their work on this past year.
Yep. Right. And
we definitely will have cash to get through the end of the year and into the next year's.
right, exactly. And that's, you and I look at it two different ways. I have to look at the cash available to be able to pay our bills, and you have to look at the other side of things to see. And I see Renee smiling there because she she has her foot in both sides of things.
She has to deal with both sides.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, we're in I don't want to say a great place, but we're in a good place as far as
For us,
cash in the unrestricted goes, to be able to carry us. And then obviously the less that we have to use that tax anticipation, the less we pay in interest. So that's always a good thing to try to use that as little as possible.
Okay, that's good.
Yep.
I understand that. Judging from like the carryover balances of the SU and some of the districts, they usually have enough money to carry their bills over into the next year. So that's neither here nor there for us. So thank you for that, Doug.
Okay.
And you really don't have to stay if you wish to leave. That's fine.
Okay. Yep. I've got a few other things I can
Unless
take
anybody
care of.
else on the board has a question. We have four of us here. Okay. All right.
All right.
So we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Have a good night, guys.
Yeah, you too.
Take care, man. Thank you.
The two parts of the consent agenda are the April 10th minutes and the warrant. And I have not identified where the warrant is. You didn't print that out, did you? Back. All right. No.
Ray, it was in one of the attachments that you sent to us. I have it on my screen.
But I'm having trouble getting it on my screen.
Okay.
I can run down through it if you'd like.
Well, no, it's, I see, it wants to run me through fill PDF forms that I don't.
Yeah, I don't know, your computer wants, yeah. Like I said, it's trying to be helpful, but it's not being helpful.
Not at all. Download, okay. I'm downloading it. And it should show up.
Yeah, it's not allowing you to view it without downloading, unfortunately.
It's supposedly downloaded, it didn't show up. I don't know. I got it.
You got it?
Thank you for your patience, gentlemen and ladies. So the warrant, as Doug says, is for $467,000, $903 really. And so that pays for tuition payments for both our students attending public schools, Arlington, Southwest Vermont, Union Elementary School, which includes Shasberry, 20 students at Shasberry and 2 at Molly Stark, I think. At any rate, and then the village school for the final payment for the year, tuition for 93 students. The final supervisory union assessment payments. South Shire School for 18 students, Sacred Heart for 4 students, Pine Cobble for 2 students, Maple Street for 2 students, Long Trail for 1, Highland Hall for 3. Lori gets paid for her minutes for last month, and Cap TT gets paid out of this. So, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes for last month.
Moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to approve the warrant for May 8th. Well, it's for this month, yes. All in favor? I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Kieran. Any questions or about that or comments? All right. Call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So there is no superintendent's report, I assume.
I have nothing, I'm sorry.
That's fine with me. Thank you. That's the best report I've had.
Short and sweet.
Chair's report. Well, I mean, basically we've done our business, so this is basically, I've been sent things by the School Board Association. You know, they wanted school board people to upgrade the Senate, actually, for changes to it's H 887, which was the bill, the House bill that since all spending bills have to originate in the House, this is the spending bill this sets the yield rate for education taxes. But it has a lot of other stuff stuffed in it, which I mentioned last month. One of which was a commission for a 2-year study, I think. 2 years to FY26, about how public education should be delivered. And it also had, a study group or a commission to be in charge of education financing. So this version, the Senate version of the same bill, it starts off by amending to very minorly, I think, where's the beginning of this? And it's many pages here. So at the beginning of it, an Education Finance Study Committee, which was in the Ways and Means bill in the House, similarly designated, and very few changes in that section. But then when it gets to the commission, you find it. Yes.
Page 6.
It all runs together after a while. So
6 and 7 is where it goes into the other.
what page?
6 to 7 is where it starts talking about the other commission on the future of public education reports.
Sorry, I passed it. Okay, then it goes into the Commission on the Future of Public Education. And Renee tells me that there's a significant change in this section. And that would be,
Yeah, more so from Act 127 to what this.
yeah, it seeks to change Act 127, which we saw the first use of it this year in our budget when we switched to long-term average weight approach to calculating the cost per pupil. So I don't think there's a big change until the end of this, right? And how many, do you have any idea what page that starts on?
I haven't compared the House version to this version. But it's essentially the legislation that was passed that changed the funding that gives North Bennington the 17-cent credit essentially on the
Yeah.
tax rate this
Right.
year is what repealed the tax rate review panel that was in Act 127. So this legislation is now reintroducing different committees to study various, so it's been a,
So are they actually changing that structure of I mean, because that was a change at the beginning of the session. They passed very quickly this change that didn't hand out money to a bunch of districts. It just hands out to districts that have negative consequences of a cent or more, basically. And we were one of those. But now they want to do away with that, or they just want.
no, that's intact.
That's
That
intact.
hasn't been,
Because that would require repealing. Yes.
nope, that hasn't been touched, but
Okay.
that was the legislation that did away with the tax rate review panel.
Yes.
So that piece.
But now they are going to. I really have to, I can't comment on this because I really haven't read this particular section. At any rate, they're making changes. I'm not sure how it's going to affect us, and Renee doesn't know either at this point in time. The School Board Association, though, was quite up in arms about it because the Ways and Means Bill 887, House 887, had been altered to something that suited the V organizations, the VSA, the VSBA, the VPA, etc. And now the Senate is changing things, and they've stirred up a little hornet's nest here. I'm not sure we want to comment on it because we're kind of at the end of the tail of the dog. I don't think we'd have much clout, but I do want to be informed about it when it comes down, and I will study that a little bit more. But there was There was, there's this controversy over the Secretary of Education. You're aware of that, all of you, right? So considerable distrust of the choice in much of the public education community. And considerable pressure was put on senators to not approve the choice. The Ed Committee interviewed Ms. Saunders, and by a 3-2 vote, agreed to forward her nomination to the whole Senate for approval, and the whole Senate resoundingly said no, 19-9. And then immediately Governor Scott appointed her the interim Secretary of Education. She's been doing the job anyway for a month or so. So that, there are countless commentaries out there from various people criticizing her and so forth. I only wanted to draw your attention to one of these by the Vermont Political Observer. And get the right one. This commentary is called, "Why is this guy chair of the Senate Education Committee?" And there's a picture of Brian Campion. Okay. So he objects to the way Brian handled what he calls a job interview, but not Brian, but Vermont Political Observer. And he's done a number of articles on this subject. Okay, but here is the remark I wanted to point out. I'll read it. Campion is no friend of the public schools. He is rather a friend of public education, as people like Zoe Saunders define it, publicly funded education, no matter how it's covered. Back in 2014, Campion's local school district of North Bennington decided, read the asterisks, decided to convert its small elementary school into a privately managed academy, for which property tax revenue pays the freight. Given the state's method of funding schools, that includes a share of your tax dollars and mine. The asterisk is that there's correction as to where Campion lives, which is certainly not in North Bennington. And for what it's worth, he says both Campion and Sears are supporters of independent schools and are the only two Democrats on the record as of early Monday evening as supporting Saunders' nomination. I can't say that Campion played an active role in the change, but it's where he lives, and it seems to reflect his approach to governance of private schools that receive public funds. At the time of the North Bennington decision, then Education Secretary Armando Villaseca expressed concern about oversight of such schools, actually proposed a legislative ban on such public-private conversions, and proposed that schools with publicly funded enrollments of 25% or more provide the same services, meet the same guidelines as public schools. 10 years later, this remains a sticking point, and Campion's committee has served as a roadblock to legislation along the lines suggested by Villaseca. Last year, the House easily approves H 483, which would require approved independent schools to follow the same rules as public schools. And the Senate assigned the bill to Campion's committee, and nothing happened since. Okay, so that's the limit of the remarks that concern this district. And I'm just pointing them out. I don't know that I feel obliged to correct the mistakes in that. But maybe we should. I don't know. What do you think?
Let it
Matthew,
play
you're
out.
the guy I'd want to hear from because you went through this process with us.
I think we hold our tongue at the moment.
It seems to be more about Brian than it is about our school.
Yeah, it is more about Brian. But this is the second time this particular commentator has brought North Bennington into this. Not previously, it wasn't this particular issue. It was last year about 483, which was then in the Senate for the Senate's consideration. And basically it got stuck on the wall. So, yeah, I'm inclined not to say anything, or I would have written something by now. But I'll just point that out. I think there's some factual errors there. It's quite different since we never intended not to abide by the same rules as public schools. We specifically set things up that they had to be that way, and they have been.
Yep. I'm discouraged by Brian's support. So are many people who educate in the community, but
Yeah. If there was can't remember her name. There was a commentary by one of our teachers.
Mary Jo.
Hmm?
Mary Jo.
That's right, Queequeg, yeah. Yeah. I saw that in Vermont Digger.
I've not had the opportunity to reach out to him and explore where he's coming from, but you know, this is not a horrible outcome. The Senate has made their point. We're not confident in this individual, but they don't know what's going to come of it. And I thought the governor's response was a good one, and obviously a political one, but like, okay, fine. She's interim.
Yeah.
And that gives her an opportunity to prove herself or not.
Or fail, whatever, yes.
Hey,
Yep,
it's
okay.
we've not had most stellar individuals, heading up the education department forever. So
We've had, sorry, what?
we've not had the most stellar individuals heading
Yeah.
up, I mean, who would want that job?
Yeah, it's a snake pit, and there's so many issues that are being dealt with at one time. That and they are having staffing difficulties anyway. And from my perspective, the one that affects us the most is, who's going to replace Brad James when he finally does retire?
Did. And it's Nicole.
I thought he came back.
He did, but no, he's been gone for quite a while now, but Nicole has been doing a phenomenal
Okay, well,
job.
good.
She is sharp and she's on it, and she's been super helpful. Yeah, no, she all through the budget season.
All right.
Yep.
Because I know that his name was still on the spreadsheets.
He still kind of, I think, is there for her
Yeah.
to support her, but she's doing great.
The master of the spreadsheet. Now she's the mistress of the spreadsheet. Okay. Well, great. But yes, special ed situation with the act, what name was that? Act 6, forget what it was. There's so many numbers.
I know. 170.
Yeah, that's it. 173. Yeah, thank you. Which developed a way, a kind of a big balloon of funding that flows around the state. But you only get it according to your average spending over the past 3 years or so, right? Yeah. That's the way it works, right?
It is our average daily membership counts.
Yeah.
3-year average and a factor that we get per student. That's it across
Yeah.
that average. So regardless of our need,
Our 3-year average of students with special ed needs.
all
Total students.
total, yep, total ADM.
All right. And then there's, well, there's too many things for me to list because I won't remember them that are going on at any given time. Of course, there were all the rule changes around special ed and the independent school rules, which were changed and I think pretty much appropriately changed, which we were already following. So, so that's enough of that. Since if no one else offers any other suggestions about what we should respond to, if not, or nothing on this particular remark in this guy's blog, we'll move on to, I think we'll go back to the building stuff. We went over these items last year. Oh, well, there was one other thing. I was sent this stakeholder survey, which I sent to you directly to look at. I had been ignoring it.
Do you mean the list that you sent?
No,
So-
not the list. I'm sorry. I switched without telling you clearly. Well, let's go through the list because I think I'll just do that myself. The list. Building. Okay, so last time we went through some of this, and we got sort of stuck on the window issue. Terry has been looking for someone to replace what are called the balances and the spring balances in the windows where they're broken to get the windows we have functional or at least not dangerous. And he hasn't located anybody yet. CL Whites will not do them anymore, not work with them. It's changed, that's changed ownership fairly recently. And it may be that they had already decided prior to that they aren't going to deal with balance issues in Windows anymore. So Terry is looking for, there are plenty of outfits that supply these balances. It's a matter of getting the right one
For those
You're right.
particular windows?
for those windows, yes. For windows of all sorts, there's a huge trade in balances and they come in lots of different spring tensions. I've looked them up before. Thinking about this issue actually, but so I don't know where he is now because he was going to do that. But then there was a I don't know if we talked about it last month, but there was an issue with the gutter on the north side of the gym that was coming off, and that appears to have been, it wasn't reinstalled properly by Doxy, so he got Doxy up there to fix it. And upon exiting the roof, whoever was up there failed to secure the door to the attic. It was, I guess, probably blown open because there was a windstorm and rain. So rain came into the attic on that end, which is the south end of the building, and soaked the cellulose insulation and soaked through the ceiling and necessitated repairs. So sorry, what's that very prominent ServPro? ServPro was called in and they fixed it and it ran several $1,000s. So Terry is telling Doxy that they need to pay it. And they've offered like half of it so far. So
My
anyway.
God.
And I think that would be an insurance claim for us, right? But there's a deductible on that, right?
Very high deductible,
Like how high is it?
$25,000.
Yeah, no, it's
Are you
nowhere
kidding
near
me?
that, so.
No,
Okay, so-
we contact Doxy's insurance directly and say, this is not tenable, and go from there. I mean, I guess this is something we have to take up because it's a building issue,
Yeah,
but, I mean, if all the facts are correct, that the individual that was up there failed to do their job, then,
but Doxy admits that.
okay. Then Doxy ought to,
Since they've offered half of it, they've admitted it, basically.
how about Doxy just, puts on the big boy pants and takes care of it?
Yeah.
What are we talking about? How much money?
I forget the figure. I think it's under $5,000. So I think it's more like under $3,000.
And they can get their own insurance to cover that if they want, but that's,
But I don't have the number exactly, so I'm but I know it's not over $5,000, I think. Okay,
is Terry willing to run that down?
he's trying to negotiate with Doxy, but
Well, I don't want him negotiating on our behalf if it's our issue, but
yeah, no, if they're going to be recalcitrant, then we need to point out that it's their issue.
yeah.
Oh, totally. And they have insurance that covers some of it for them, but. Okay, I will send that back to them.
As far as this list goes, Ray,
Yeah.
I think that, I think the most important one here with the most exposure to liability and concern actually is the windows.
Yeah,
Particularly after a contractor over the summer lost the tip of his finger.
yeah,
That we have to address. Yes, we need to
Yeah.
address the heating system and other stuff, but
yeah.
you know how I am with these windows. I hate them.
Well, okay, so can you do something, can you do some research for us, or do we need to get someone to do some research for us on, I mean, I don't know if Holly can do this, or she has time to do any research on windows for us?
Well,
You
You
know,
just
she's got
told
a
me-
lot going on right now. Summer projects gearing up.
Yeah, I'm sure she does.
You just
but
told
maybe-
me that there's, multiple sources for, fixing the windows. That they're available and you have to find a contractor to install them. Short of that, we need to replace the damn windows. I don't know. You said that the ballast exists for this particular window.
They can be purchased. You just have to identify what you need. And
Okay,
Terry's looked at them. So he's got an idea what it is. I'll have to follow up with him. That's only a stopgap.
well, I mean,
But,
yeah, okay.
but you know, who's going to specify these windows for us? I'm not doing that. We need, I don't know if we need an architect or an engineer. Or do we just look for suppliers and evaluate them?
Do we know the make and model of the window enough that we can tell somebody who provides these services?
I can look through. I think I probably can find files on this from back in around 2000. I can ask Scott Creedy because he was part of that. But I think he gave me the files, so I think I probably have them somewhere. I can look them up.
You know, it's like looking for a
I
part.
think we're looking for, I know that one of the contractors in that project went out and stopped doing it after the first tranche. And we went with a different contractor. And, you know, they're not all the same window, I think, throughout the building. They look similar. I would have to look that up too.
Lot thickens, I guess, but I'd be curious if the ones that have failed are the ones that were of a different manufacturer.
It could well be.
Bottom line is, it's like looking for a part for your lawnmower
Yeah,
in 2012, like the one I just found out has a blown engine and,
yeah.
you know, trying to find an alternative that fits the whole bolt pattern and all that stuff. You know, it's the same thing. And if they can't be fixed, and by the way, didn't ballast go out like 50 years ago?
No, not these. You're thinking of like
Yeah, the weights and stuff, but you're talking
along
spring.
weights. Yes, it's not that. There's springs.
Okay.
And they're torqued. And they're different constructions, which I don't know all these things.
Like a
but,
garage door or something. Yeah,
But there are oodles of wholesale outfits that sell them. I've looked them up. But I'm not going to specify because I don't actually know what these are. Terry would have to tell me that. And after all, it is a stopgap because I agree we should look into replacing the windows. So let's figure out how we want to do that.
how many windows are threatening fingers at this point?
Well, it's basically the library windows that do that, and any room that has larger windows.
So most of the school, because we have several in my room that I won't
Yeah, they're
open.
big.
I can't open.
It's because the window openings are large, so the windows are big, they're heavy. They're thermopanes, they've got two pieces of glass in there.
So the ballast was undersized for those larger windows and then they failed and,
Yeah,
but let's just say, should we, first of all, any window that's not functioning, we should be, locking
right, it should be deemed unusable.
with a sticker right on there, do not
Right.
open this window.
And I think we said that last month. I think I'll refresh Terry's memory about that. Make sure that any windows that are not openable either are done only by custodian personnel,
Trained professionals.
right? Or you know, or marked as not usable, not openable.
Yeah. That's a liability thing. I think that's an important part to start. Like somebody open this window and then you lose your hand. Well, it said right there, you shouldn't open this window. But
Yeah. Well, if you can't lift it, you definitely can't open the window anyway, and you shouldn't even try.
Right.
And they're heavy enough, even with springs, they can be difficult to move. I know that because I've tried. So that's all right, but
as we discussed before, though, I mean, replacing even 30 of these windows, we're looking at,
it's not a small number.
$100,000 or something.
How much?
Maybe 100, maybe
Yeah.
50, 100,
Could
you
well
know.
be. Yep. So. Okay, well,
Get this ventilation system going, then the windows become kind of secondary.
yes. You don't need to open them.
I got limbs falling out of my trees right now in this wind, so. Sorry.
You have a wind? We have no wind down here.
Oh,
Is
it's
it raining, Matt? Because
Nope.
We're outside right now. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
I'm listening and I'm thinking, I better shut my
Well, it is
window.
supposed to be coming
Pretty
in,
loud.
something's supposed to come in.
There's not a big
don't see it
line,
down here yet. At
but
any rate, okay, so I'll pursue this with Terry about whether he's, you know, if he can tell me more information about the ballast or balances. And maybe I can help him out on researching those, but I do want to look up the plans if I could find all that stuff. I'm sure I have it. I just,
I wonder if there's some indication on the window themselves that would tell you what.
yeah, no, that it's, I'm sure it's up there. He's looked at it. He says he knows. He's seen what marks are on.
Probably a fly by night, you know, situation. 27 years ago now. Is that what it was?
No, it wasn't a fly-by-night situation. I'm sure of that.
All right.
That was John Traver's project.
Ray, you keep saying that it's a stopgap, a temporary thing. So does that mean that the brackets or the bolts that are holding these windows on are not in good shape, and that will also need to
No,
be
they're fine. But the spring mechanism itself,
I get that. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
They're a spiral balance and the spring has got to be torqued properly. And then they are connected to, you know, there's a fixture that connects them to the bottom of the stash. They're up in the upper part of the stash.
Yep.
And sometimes that fastening, well, in a really cheap situation like the windows in my shop, which the plastic at the bottom of the window gave way because of ultraviolet exposure, I suppose. And so the spring goes boom. You no longer have a spring that's functional without rebuilding the window kit. This is a better window than that, a lot better. And you know, those springs have released. I don't know the cause of this because I've never seen it happen. And no one's actually described it very accurately to me. And so some of those windows that have issues, you know, one side or other is not functioning right now.
Yeah, I suppose if there's a spring on either side that when one fails,
They're two springs, they have a slot that they fit into there. And if they're properly tensioned, they should lift the window, but
So
now we're getting a
hypothetically,
breeze.
It's windy.
The
hypothetically,
windows here just moved.
if properly set, our windows would be salvageable and would be fine, but you keep saying temporary, so why would that be temporary?
Well, because I think they ought to be replaced, because they keep blowing seals, and I'm not sure that's an expensive repair in itself. And it's an
A number-
indication that there's something wrong with that size or the gap in the window.
a number of
in
those,
the
a number of
front
those
pane.
panes have blown their, their
There's too much flexing,
vacuum.
so they lose seal.
And so it gets back to, well, the window is compromised, but that's one thing from a heat retention aspect, but the other is a safety aspect of,
I think the safety aspect is more important.
I agree.
The
So
blown
with
seal
seals-
is, you know, yes, you lose some of the R value, but you didn't have that much R value to begin with.
So when those seals failed, can the panes have been falling out?
No,
No, not yet. Okay.
it just,
They
it
don't
just
fall
means that they go foggy and opaque and they no longer have that, I think
They
basically,
get moisture in them and then it condenses.
and they
falls.
look like hell and, from the street. But from an energy standpoint, you're talking about a difference of what? 4 to 5 R, or 2 to 5 or whatever, it's not,
Yeah, I mean, you've got more than one, you've got probably two, like you say, because you've got two panes of glass and you do have a space in there, although it's no longer vacuumed.
yeah.
And yeah, so maybe you had 4 or 5 and now you got half that. But you
It's
still
not-
got something, yes.
It's not a huge energy issue. It's a safety issue and then maybe a new window in today's standards could actually double that effect or whatever and be,
Yeah.
be more,
So it's the spring that would
the springs,
be the safety issue fix.
That's the safety issue there.
and
And
it's
so
not
if
broken
possible, then
glass or anything falling
Yeah.
out or anything like that.
No, nothing's been falling out.
then that's
Strictly the windows being a guillotine if it gets.
Don't want to lose these babies, when you're,
No, right.
Yeah.
Or a
You
little
can't, you
child.
can't depend on certain of these windows to stay up if you push them up. That's what's happened.
right. And if we're concerned mostly with the liability, then replacing the springs is obviously a lot more cost effective than replacing the windows.
Yeah,
If-
I just think that it's been 20 years. Maybe we need to look into better technology.
No, I would agree also, fix the springs and also maybe look into systematically replacing windows on, a floor or half a floor.
Would that
Yeah.
money be better spent with the boilers and the ventilation system though? Because then you'd be
Well,
solving those two problems as well. Which would nullify the loss in energy of the R value of the windows.
yeah, the ventilation system is going to change a number of things if it happens. So I think we've discussed the windows enough. If you disagree, go ahead and make a point, but I think the ventilation system, I'm still trying to get an agreement here, you know, and Dina drafted an agreement for us and Ottinger marked it up for the village school. And Dina she's got too many other things to do. She's not gotten back to me about the markup or just doing the markup that he requested. So Ken sent her an email and I just sent her an email today. And he's not in town at the moment, so hopefully it's not too big a deal for her and she can get around to it. Because there are lots bigger fish for her to fry, I'm sure, than this little agreement, so.
Is this going to hinder the progress of obtaining
Hindering the
quotes
progress.
again?
It needs to get done so that, you know, I would have thought that Tim could go ahead and move ahead, assuming that it's going to get done, because I know it's going to get done. But he hasn't done that, and I think it's because we have to have this agreement signed for Efficiency Vermont to start processing things.
So it's essentially holding up even the quotes and everything like that to send out for bidding again.
Apparently. It's annoying.
Been a mess.
It's been a mess. So hopefully I can get that straightened out between Tim and I. All right.
If it's something that Dina doesn't have the capacity to take care of right now, is there somebody else in her office that we might be able to utilize to do it?
I think I don't know. I'm looking at Renee here, but she's not saying to me anything. So.
She tends to be our point person, and
Yes.
since she's already involved.
Well, I know she's our attorney and stuff like that, point of contact. But I didn't know if there's maybe, somebody that she worked closely with that could, essentially just
I think should
finalize it for us.
I
So
don't
that
know.
would be
I don't think it's a big deal, but I think there's, maybe there's some other impediment that I don't know. And I think she will get it done. Hopefully soon. We've pushed a little bit. I don't want to push too much because, she's still recovering from, not that she'll ever recover, I suppose, from her husband dying.
Well, I mean, functionally,
She's
And-
functioning, yes, she's functioning.
any resolution to all this is not going to lead to a successful bid on this project till 25, 26, right?
That's right. It's next year. We're pointing to next year.
So if we
That
could get
is
resolution and,
FY 26, yes.
Yeah. but
Okay,
again, the sooner we could do that this year, the better
yes,
chance
the
we have.
sooner something can happen on trying to get people to give us prices, yes. That's right. That's what we're looking for. Okay, so can we look at these other items here? The ones that Terry highlighted, I guess? Because they're things that he wants to do this summer.
So by refinish, what does he mean? The floor. Strip it
Patching
and,
whatever needs to be patched and doing a new coating of their epoxy floors. Whatever
Okay.
you have to do. Now it's possible that he could have the crew do it because you can buy the materials. But there's a learning curve.
Wait, this is not a wax. This is not a strip and wax. This is
No, it's, I believe he means to redo the floor with epoxy.
oh, okay.
And that floor dates from 1997.
So does he have numbers on that?
No,
I would say that's the first
would-
thing to do
sorry, what?
is how much, his highlights. How about he puts together some numbers for all of those
Right,
things.
that's right.
You could bill of materials, what he's planning on doing.
Yep.
He has to,
I personally, the calculation is whether you can do it safely and effectively yourself. The materials can be purchased, I know that. And people do their floors, but like the gym floor needs to be done as well. And there's concrete issues, there are some small cracks in the floor that need to be patched. So it seems like that's a contractor's job to me. And probably, I don't know that there are cracks in the vestibule floor to deal with. But
those
there
are
may be
those are two different floors, right? They're different types.
two different floors. One's a pebble texture and the gymnasium is of course a smooth floor.
And not epoxy or,
No, it is epoxy.
okay. So he ought to look into getting a quote from somebody to do all of it.
Yep, I think so too.
And short of that, if it's, maybe he can do the vestibule
Yep.
with some training. Stair treads, sure.
Okay, so we've redone them within the last 20 years because I did a run of cutting nosings down to the right size for the entry stairway off the vestibule. 10 years ago, 12 years ago. I mean, they do wear out because there's a lot of traffic on them.
Mhm.
And as long as I have access to my table saw, I'm not averse to doing the same thing again. And previously, when Jimmy Coonrat was our maintenance person, he installed them. I don't know if Terrence feels comfortable doing that or if he thinks one of the guys working for him could do that. Otherwise, someone could do it and they could do the whole thing, soup to nuts. Order the proper treads and install them.
Why don't,
I think that's what I would tell him to do.
I think
I
we
mean,
should,
I see he's talking about the riser covers on the employee entrance side as well. Some of those are cracking, and I know that.
Yeah,
Um,
wherever I think some have are failing on the main stair too.
do the main stairs have riser covers on them too, or are those just
Yeah.
treads?
Sure. Well, they're treads. They don't have riser covers. No, what's he say here? Maybe I'm misunderstanding it. He's talking about treads, not
It's
risers.
it's the textured treads that,
Yeah, it's the treads. And I would say, find a contractor to do it if you want to, or do it yourself, whatever, and we'll pay for it. Right?
how about we sit down with Terrence and go over these very issues, Ray, you and I maybe, and work out a plan, because summer's coming and that's when you want that kind of work to be done.
For these items that are highlighted, which are
Yeah.
summer projects.
Yeah, we can't talk about boilers or, at
No,
this,
we can't talk about that. Okay, what about carpet in classrooms, 6th, 4th, 3rd? This is all upstairs. And I agree with that. And we had been replacing, we've done some replacements. And gone away from roll carpet to
Squares.
carpet tiles, which makes sense.
Ray, have we agreed that this is not a general wear and tear item that they ought to be covering, or?
Well, the carpets are almost 30 years old.
Well, that's one discussion, but the other is, oh yeah, okay, maybe we do it once.
I'm thinking Matt's getting along the lines. Is it like one of those things like we maintain the boiler, but we're not paying for the fuel that goes in the tank?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Exactly.
Is it a normal wear and tear kind of thing, maintenance that should be covered under, the village school, or is it something that it's
Well,
not really considered
we've
part of the
covered the
building?
other
Doesn't-
carpet tile
I mean,
installation.
essentially, it doesn't really need carpeting. Would be my assumption.
We could just tear the carpeting up and leave them with floors that they can do what they want to with. I mean,
Well,
I mean-
they're stripped floors underneath. And,
I'd go along with Matt, say, hey, this is kind of, it's not something that normally we would cover because it's not something that's part of the building, I guess,
but,
and maybe
but
say,
as a precedent, we did cover it for, the kindergarten and the pre-K.
when was that though? How long ago?
Within the last 10 years. And also for the first grade. Because
music
and
room.
there were issues there because in both the first grade. In two of those rooms, the structural beams supporting those floors were compromised, so we had to do work on them at the same time. So that's all done, and we paid for the underlayment, and that was hard screwed down to the strip floor. So that's no longer an option to do anything but a glue down surface, a stick down surface like carpet tiles.
But I think that's
Those
the
rooms are fine.
argument. We replaced floors where we had to do other work that was structural. Or we replaced floors where there was flood damage resulting.
Right, that was the one in the basement music room.
Yep. My point is,
it would have to be replaced by us because water was leaking in. So yes, we're not going to say, hey, we're going to fix the leak, and you guys are left with everything else. It makes sense. We made good on that. I just think,
they want to change
I
the
think
color of the
there was
wall.
also
if they want to change the floor, I would even go as far as like say, look, it's not essentially something that we're going to pay. Either we do it this one time, or maybe they just go halves with us this time, and then just let them know that
Okay,
if
well,
you want to change the
let's go
carpeting,
have that discussion.
change the carpeting. then it's
Same with
something
the
that you should-
carpet in the main office.
Yep.
The offices that are mentioned here, there are actually 3 of them.
Let's meet with Terrence and Tim and go over these kind of approachable projects that can be
Yeah.
done over the summer and figure out what we're going to do, and then set forth a future contract, I guess, that says, we don't replace the light bulbs, do we?
No.
Do they pay to do the floors, To screen the floors and all that? To refinish the floors?
Yeah, yes, they do that. The wooden floors.
Perfect analogy, I think there.
Yeah.
They want to keep their wood floors nice, they pay for it. They want to keep their carpets nice,
Yeah,
they pay
they,
for it.
they sort of use the system I came up with for dealing with the wooden floors. But improvements, they've made improvements on what I was. Yep.
Now, when, I mean, I get it. Once the floors themselves, the wood floors in the hallways can't be screened and refinished,
That's part of the building that we would cover that.
then is it more of a structural thing, right? Yeah. And
Yeah, well, the whole deal about keeping it finished is that it's not degrading.
I get it. Yeah.
The
So
wear of the finish is the beginning of the wear on the floor. And that's why you keep it finished.
And I would consider the carpet as a finish to the floor that,
Yeah,
that,
right.
but I get the point. Some of them are much older than the contract with the village school. Which case we share in those costs
Yeah.
or even a one-time, take
Okay.
the time.
You guys are being tougher than I am at this point.
Well,
Okay, so who wants to be in that meeting? I mean, if Matt, you're the determinant of when the meeting happens because of your schedule. So I'll see, maybe I'll talk to Tim and Terrence, see when they can get together and get several dates maybe.
Yeah, I can,
Or you could give me some dates too. Like in before our next board meeting.
okay. Well, I can't do that right now, but I will.
I'm saying you have 3 weeks roughly to.
So, I mean, we're meeting tomorrow morning at 7:30 at the village office, right?
Yes,
I'm gonna make that one,
okay.
but
So if we want to talk about the other highlighted ones, I mean, the water fountain,
What's
that
that?
should be us, I would imagine.
isn't that water fountain a new one?
I don't think it is, no.
Where are you talking about? Because no one
The
sent
one
me.
It's
Hey,
the one,
on
it's the one
your
outside the
floor.
pre-K on the main level.
Out in front of my room?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's an
that's
old one.
old. That's
Yeah,
old.
that's an old,
That's
it's not
old,
one of the
yeah.
new ones with the filters or anything like that.
Right.
So what they want, you want one has the water filling.
It has the
bottle
filters,
filling?
and it has the,
Feature?
the filters and everything like that.
And we need a stool because we can't reach it.
Maybe we can place it lower. We replaced all the other fountains on our dime, and we should do that one.
Yeah, we did.
That's fine with me. And it was about $1,000, as I recall.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, that was yesterday's money, Matt.
$2,000. We're gonna get a new fountain.
We did it in the last 5 years. I know that.
We did 3 of them, didn't we?
Or half a fountain.
We did a couple there's one downstairs on the ground floor, and there's one on the third floor.
Lori, would the kids be happy with a hose?
Sure. Hose is great.
I bet they would be. And I bet there'd be wet rooms. It'd be sprayed all
Yes,
over
we can
the
give them one of
place.
those little hoses, that
Surprisingly useful. In elementary school.
And then the last two that I see highlighted, Ray, are the hallways to be painted a different color for each floor. I would assume that'd be their cost.
They paint them. I'm not painting them.
yeah,
And then the stage, the refinish the
I
stage.
did, now, one thing I have done is that because the district gets a fantastic break on paint at Sherwin-Williams, I will use the account. to provide paint.
And then refinishing the stage in the gym, along with a look at the lighting and get that lighting back up and running.
I think after the
The
performance,
lighting in the gym is brand new. That's.
The stage
They
lighting.
want the stage
stage
lights
lights.
coming up off the stage, I think. There's some lights embedded in the stage, are there?
The
I
lights
think
that
right up
flip
in the
up
front.
that I never knew about. Yeah.
Or is there a classic, rod up above with Lico lights, and theater light?
They had incredible lighting for this Shrek the musical. Amazing.
Well,
But they also
That
brought in
wasn't
those
ours. I
those
think
big
that was
lights.
borrowed.
Yeah. I mean, I made a comment to Carrie about the stage, and because I was helping break down stuff, and I'm like, we gonna paint the stage black or what? And she's like, oh, I wish, because that's traditional. But
Yeah. I think
but-
you're right, Kieran. I think talking to Carrie would be a really good idea, getting her involved.
Yeah.
John
Right.
Lamson as well. He went to Tisch School of drama. If
but I
you-
mean,
Did he?
in
Really?
typically a performance stage is usually all black.
Oh, we should talk about that then. Yeah.
what's the wood
Okay.
now? The wood, it's just painted wood. I mean,
No, I think it's
know.
finished.
yeah, it's brown.
I think it's a finished
So
oak.
the floor was never sanded and refinished after so that means that, Lori, correct me if I'm wrong, was that floor done many times by Will Stewart?
Yeah, oh, yeah, yes.
Yeah. So it's due for a good, it'll take some sanding to get to.
but it's a
through the
varnish,
varnish.
it's a varnished hardwood floor kind of thing where
Or maybe you can sand it as smooth as you can get it, then just paint over it. I'm not sure, with a good floor paint.
yeah. I'd be all
If
right
you
with
want
that.
to make it black, that is.
Look,
All right.
I think that the school could really get somewhere with a theater program.
Yeah, I
And-
think so too.
No, there's a
And I'd
lot
be-
of positive feedback about
Yeah.
the musical that they just put
And
on.
they've got somebody there in Cherry and the music person. They're both interested apparently, so. I think that's good.
We replaced the curtains or how did those get replaced?
Those were replaced as a gift.
It was a gift. Okay.
Yep.
So I think we got to go ahead with that. We got to encourage that kind of,
Creativity, yep.
Yeah, and I don't think I mean, with all the feedback, and I mean, even just the kids themselves, the feedback from the kids. Obviously,
They
because my
were
son is
amped
in it,
up.
they all love doing it. So
Yep.
I think it'd be a nice thing for us to
Yeah.
cover that,
I think,
essentially, even though it's kind of a cosmetic kind of thing.
yeah,
Specifically for that reason. And I mean,
Oh,
I
yeah.
grew up in the theater too, and so it's
me too.
it's always it's the biggest one. You go to any professional theater, and it's all black stage. So that's kind of
okay.
the thing.
Yep.
Here's the other thing on that is that, there's no theater program currently, from what I understand, at the high school. Is that right?
They do little productions here and there, but it's nothing to the point of where they're doing like actual like on a regular basis, like musicals or anything like
Right.
that.
After
So, I mean,
John,
they do plays and they do utilize the auditorium up there, but I mean, even from my daughter being in the high school, being part of that stuff, it's not really to the extent of what I remember it used to be when I was in high school.
oh yeah,
well, Tim Foley's not there anymore.
no,
That's,
Yeah, for the drama, but Lynn Sweet does a good job with the musicals.
yeah, she do. Yep.
yep. Well, and they did have, because of VAE, they had this, New Orleans group came up and, played music last week.
Yeah.
At the high school or at village school?
Yeah, in the
High school.
the blue seats, there was a concert in the evening with, student musicians and, this, I forget the name of the group.
That's great. Well, I was gonna actually say that, we could, depending on how it developed at the village school, that's a performance space that immediately becomes a community performance space, which, VAE used to have performances all the time at the
Yeah.
old, and that, they used the Masonic Temple.
Right,
It would be a very good venue for that sort of thing as well.
right. They'd have music and,
Peter.
theater, yeah.
Maybe more on the educational level. I mean, it's not the great venue for, for a nighttime concert.
You during the kids play. I mean, you guys saw there's not much room in there for. If you're trying to sell tickets, you're limiting yourself to about maybe 100 people.
At
Yeah.
that.
It's not a lot by any means, but for
Yeah, there
for,
are fire marshal limits on this, the
I
holding
mean,
space.
for the purpose of um, acknowledging and supporting their Carrie and Carla's essentially goal for these kids and what they want to do. I think it's a valid request.
Yeah. No, and I
I would
definitely
suggest
would want to
Boblat.
support it.
So let's again talk to Tim and Terrence. And let them.
Okay, so, if you can give me day or days that you could make a meeting, Matt, I could suggest those to Terrence and Tim, see if we can get them together with us.
So it's better that you just set a date and then I make accommodations.
Okay.
I-
Then I'll do
I
that,
don't have any day off on the week, during the week
right,
typically, but I can take time off. So
okay. All right. All right, so I think we've gone through it as best we can. And, I'll see what I can, whether we can, make progress on the report next month. So, that's all I have to say. I've been talking too much.
then I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll second.
Thank you all.
Good night.